Alright, folks, 2009 Mercury Milan Premier V6 4.0 liter dual overhead cam engine. I was driving it to work the other day and I drove back. This is my wife's car. And on my way back, I did notice that at stoplights or at a stop, that the low oil pressure light was coming on. Now, it wasn't staying on constant. It was turning on and then turning off. It kind of worried me because that can signify low oil pressure in a car. So I took it home, got it home as fast as possible, parked it in the garage, looked at it a little bit yesterday for different things and fixed it today. Now I'm going to go over all of that very shortly. But first I want to go over a few things. Safety. Now I jacked up this car. I got some jack stands on each side of it, holding up the front of the car. Got wheel blocks on the back of it to prevent it from rolling backwards, since it is a front wheel drive, and preventing the front end from falling on me while I'm underneath it. Always good. Also got the emergency brake on as well. Extra safety here. So for those of you who don't know what an oil pressure light looks like, I'm going to show you. I think everybody should, but not everybody's too familiar with cars and you might have more questions. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what oil pressure light looks like. Turn on the accessory. It's that red light right there. It looks like an oil can. It has oil dripping out of the tip of it. That's your oil pressure light on a vehicle. Now, when you first start your car, that oil light comes on, and it should turn off shortly thereafter, 1 or 2 seconds. That signifies that your oil pressure is good. If that light stays on, that means you have low oil pressure. Some of the reasons for having a low oil pressure is low oil level, low pressure, maybe from the oil pump, not pumping enough oil throughout the car, maybe from the oil pickup being a little bit clogged. It could be a number of different things, to be quite honest. So this can be kind of a difficult thing to to diagnose. Anyway, where I would suggest you start is checking your oil level. So on this car right here, we've got the oil dipstick. It's yellow, and it has this tube that goes down to the oil pan, so I know that is the oil dipstick. Other cars, they may not be yellow, but they do usually sit in the front of the engine. Transmission dipsticks, which this car does not have because it is a sealed transmission, would be on the back of the engine, more towards the transmission. Okay, so oil dipstick, I'll pull that out and show you guys oil level here. So stop moving. Anyway, this oil level is good. It's sitting right in the crosshatch area. You can see that. It's kind of hard with the light, but I'm working in a dark garage. It's actually sitting a little bit higher, but this isn't the first time I've checked the oil. Usually you want to pull it, wipe it, and then pull it again for an accurate reading. But just for purposes, I'm not going to do that. But I just want you to see, as long as it's in between those two dots in that crosshatch area, you're okay. If it's below that first dot or pretty low right above that first dot, you're going to want to add more oil to it. Another thing you want to look at is the condition of the oil. This oil is gold. It's pretty clear. The consistency of it, if you feel it, it's in gritty. It looks really decent. So, okay, one-handed, get it in there. All right. So low oil level, that's out. All right. Also, the oil looks pretty good. So that tells me something about the internal makings of the engine. That, the oil inside, it's good. Now, sludge is a major concern. If you don't change your oil a lot, you could have a buildup of sludge inside of the engine. Sludge can cause some major problems like blocking the pickup, the oil pickup in the oil pan, creating a hard time for the oil pump to pump oil throughout the engine, creating overheating inside of the engine, wear, tear, and knocking in the engine, and eventually complete engine failure, seizure, thrown rod, blown piston, whatever. One of the easiest ways to look for sludge buildup is looking underneath your oil cap. Now this here on this engine is the oil cap. Same symbol as the oil light inside the car. Other cars may not have this. They might say oil across them. If they're upside down, it's going to say 710. It's still your oil cap. If they don't say either of those things, it's going to be on top of your valve cover. Every car on top of a valve cover, oil cap. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to look underneath it. I'm going to look for sludge. I don't see any. This is really clean. Alright, it's shiny. It's black. It's nice. Sludge, if you don't know what to look for when you're looking for sludge, it looks like tar. It looks like thick tar. Alright, I don't even see carbon buildup on the back of this, which would be like kind of a black, hardened, kind of like coal type of on there. I don't even see that. So it looks pretty good as far as that. So right off the bat, I'm not thinking that there's a lot of sludge. There's not a lot of carbon buildup. The oil looks good. The engine does not knock. So those are all good signs. As far as if the oil pump is working or not. Another thing I did just to be sure, so I went underneath the engine and I pulled off the oil filter. I took it to a shop and I had them cut the top of the oil filter all the way around so that way I could take out the insides of the oil filter. I looked at the paper filter inside of it. I looked for if it had sludge, if it had any metal shards in it. I looked for any signs of wear and tear of the internal engine, and I didn't see anything. Now, if you guys saw anything like that in any of your vehicles when you watch this video, I would take it to a shop because most likely you've got something inside your engine causing that oil light to come on. That's, the best that I can tell you, honestly. So moving on, what else can cause it? Well, the low oil pressure switch. Now, on this car, I've already replaced it, and it's right here. Right there next to the oil filter, right next to the oil dipstick tube. Like I said, here we've got the oil pan is right there. Now that's a 13/16 wrench, or 13/16 socket. And that's the plastic clip that sits right on top of it. There's a little tab right there. You push it in that tab, you pull off that, and you wrench this out. Okay, because there's an alternator right there. I did also as well unplug the negative terminal on the battery, safety first. Because of the clearance between the sensor and the alternator, I could not fit the socket and a ratchet over it. So I ended up having to use a socket adjustable wrench combo because I didn't have a 13/16 wrench. So if you don't have a 13/16 wrench and you have this particular make and model car, I suggest going to get one and make things a lot easier for you. I had a hard time finding the location of that switch online, other videos, other pictures, diagrams, things like that. It took me a while to find it, so that's where it is on this car. But I'm also going to go over possible locations on other cars. I've seen other cars be around the oil pan itself, either around, where's my hand at? The front of the oil pan, back of it, up around the engine block, somewhere back here. Alright, I've also seen it, let me go back to the top here, and oddball places on top of the engine right here around the valve cover. I've also seen it underneath the air filter housing. Back here towards the back of the engine, those are kind of hard to find. I've seen it on Dodges where the engine faces the other way for rear-wheel drive vehicles. Back here next to the distributor in the back of the engine. Those are some of the locations. Now there's going to be other locations, and I don't know them all, but I hope that that will help for you. And I know it's not 100% in depth. Anyway, here's the old switch. This was the part number for it, PS637. It was $13 at AutoZone. This is what I was talking about with what I had to use because I didn't have a 13/16 wrench. Here's a 13/16 socket made for spark plugs, and a crescent wrench. So I got it on there and turned it off like that. That's how I got it out. Anyway, that did fix the problem. I hope this video helps all of you, and I wish all of you have a good day.